So a new poll came out this week about the Mitt Romney race against Jenny Wilson. And people know Jenny pretty well from her time with the city, and also her dad was the mayor of Salt Lake for a long time. But this poll was pretty big. 60% for Mitt Romney, 14% for Jenny Wilson. Heidi? That's a pretty huge number, right?
It is a pretty huge number, and I'm sure that she knows what she's up against, but I don't know that she's running her best race, being her best self right now, and the way that she's attacking it. Every time I see her tweet something, she's trying to counter what Mitt Romney's saying, and I just don't know that that's working, and I think she just needs to be who she is and run and do her best job. I know it's a tough job because Mitt Romney does have such huge support.
He does, but Glen, in this poll, 32% of Democrats say they're supporting Mitt Romney. What does she do with that, or any other candidate?
It's tough. I mean, tell me any candidate who gets 32% from the other party who isn't favored to win. I mean, that's a huge number. And I think with Mitt, you know, a lot of people, especially Democrats, like him for what he had to say when he first came out against the president. And I think that's why he's somewhat popular. I think he's become more popular since his run as president with, you know, some of the shows that he's done. You know, that Netflix documentary came out, Mitt, I think put him in a really good light that people liked, and they just more saw him as a person. And so, yeah, he's popular. And I think that, you know, some of his ideas as a little bit more of a moderate ring true with a lot of Democrats as well. But we'll see if that sticks once we kind of get into political season.
Matt, you followed so many campaigns in your career. Sometimes it's easy to say I support someone when they're just calling on the phone.
Right.
But these elected officials get worried that, hey, people think this is in the bag and I don't show up.
Yeah, Mitt Romney will still work really hard. You'll see him alone in his black Ford pickup truck, driving around Utah, shaking hands, acting like the average Utahn to try to earn that support, because voters might already like him and support him, but they don't like the idea of someone who's just waltzing into office. So he'll still work hard, but I also think you need to remember that in Utah, in statewide races, Republicans have dominated Democrats for decades now. I don't remember the last time a Democrat was really competitive in a statewide race, and none of those Democrats were running against the likes of Mitt Romney. This is a tough one.
Anytime we start getting close to an election, people start talking about the boundaries, the districts, you know, whether or not there's some gerrymandering. Glen, there is an initiative out, this initiative to create this nonpartisan, independent redistricting commission, right? So how is that shaping up, particularly with arguments before the Supreme Court this last week?
I think it's you know, kind of 50-50, because redistricting is something that we only talk about every 10 years. But I think when people look at it and they say that it would be up to a commission to do it and to try to make it as fair as possible, or to try to get competitive districts, I think for some people that they like that idea, because they don't, as you said, they don't like the idea of people being able to waltz into office. And sadly, with Congress, with redistricting and Republican and Democratic states, we've seen that there aren't competitive districts for Congress anymore. We do not see the swings that we used to see in the 90s and early 2000s, and people feel like they have safe seats. And when people have safe seats, you see a lot of the problems that we've seen in Washington, where people don't have to work across the aisle. And so when you look at the problems that gerrymandering creates, and you look at that possibly being a solution, I think people will be in favor of the solution.
Do people think that these districts are all gerrymandered? Is that the perception that you're getting from people?
I think both sides are going to always say that, but I think with Utah's growth, I think it's appropriate to look at it and try to take a good look, because there's a lot of new people in the state, which I think changes the demographics. Utah's also a very weird state, because we have little pockets of people, but most of it's along the Wasatch Front. But you've got to make sure that you've got each of those weird little pieces covered. So I think when you go to the rural West, it gets a little tougher. But I think we should do our best to be fair and make sure the people of Utah and how they are currently, not how they were 10 years ago or 20 years ago, are being represented.
Well, we'll watch this one closely, and the Supreme Court may rule on this one soon, may give us some direction on how to do these districts. Thank you for your insights on this issue.